The protests I just showed you are not typical demonstrations. They reflect the intense anger of local communities in certain countries, now taking to the streets to voice their outrage. You think tourism is harmless fun? Beaches, cheap flights, late-night street food. But today I will show you the dark side. Countries whose culture, housing, and future have been hollowed out by tourists themselves. Not accidental damage, systematic destruction, skyrocketing rents, flooded streets, ruined ecosystems, local businesses replaced by souvenir shops, and foreigners who arrive as visitors but never leave, living for years on tourist or flimsy residency paperwork. This isn't a hypothetical. This is happening right now, from the islands of the Mediterranean to beach towns in Southeast Asia and even inside American cities. So in today's video we are going to show you 10 countries destroyed by tourists in 2025. But before starting the video, I would like to request you to watch the entire video before forming your own opinion and getting confused. And also don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 10. Thailand. Thailand was the land of smiles, but those smiles are hiding a crisis. After COVID, tourism boomed again, with 32.4 million visitors in 2025, peaking at 3.5 million in April and again in July and August. Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Phuket are overflowing. Streets jammed with scooters, taxis, and buses. Condos that once housed locals are now rented to foreigners, often for months at a time using repeated tourist visas or digital nomad arrangements. Neighborhoods like Sukhumvit and Siloam in Bangkok have become tourist zones, with local markets replaced by bars, restaurants, and Instagram-focused cafes. Chiang Mai's old city is dominated by ghost houses and digital nomads. Phuket's Patong Beach is overcrowded, beaches polluted, and small businesses replaced by tourist-centric enterprises. Local protests are growing. Residents in smaller towns are demanding stricter tourist visa checks and caps on short-term rentals. Families struggle as housing costs skyrocket while local jobs pay poorly. Government campaigns aim to regulate visitors and attract specific nationalities, but locals feel abandoned. Illegal overstays are significant. Thousands of tourists live in urban areas for years without proper documentation, creating semi-permanent foreign communities. Peak months: December to March. See extreme congestion, locals protesting noise, crowding, and rising rents. Bangkok streets, once vibrant with local culture, are now clogged with tourists. Locals compete for housing, services, and jobs while foreigners dominate entire districts. Chiang Mai rice paddies vanish under villa developments. Phuket beaches are crowded beyond capacity. The Thailand you thought you knew is slowly disappearing. Number 9. Spain. Spain stands as Europe's starkest warning of overtourism run amok. A sun-drenched dream where historic cities and island paradises teeter on the edge of collapse under a relentless human tide. Barcelona, home to just 1.7 million souls, is besieged by a staggering 30 million visitors annually, a punishing 18-to-1 tourist-to-resident ratio that peaks in July and August with 4.2 million monthly arrivals, turning the Gothic Quarter and El Raval into chaotic mazes of selfie sticks and suitcase wheels. Entire neighborhoods are hollowed out as 62% of central apartments morph into Airbnbs, over 15,000 in Barcelona alone, driving rents up 22% since 2022 and displacing 9,000 families in Catalonia's historic core. Local shops vanish, replaced by 1,200 new souvenir stalls and tourist menus charging $27 for paella once sold for $8.70, eroding cultural life as residents flee to suburbs. The crisis ripples beyond Barcelona. Ibiza and Palma buckle under summer surges, with Mallorca's visitor count hitting 12.4 million in 2024. Overwhelming beaches and clogging roads. Public buses in Palma ran 30% over capacity last July, stranding locals. Valencia's El Carmen, once a bohemian enclave, sees 45% of its flats as short-term rentals. With gentrification pricing out artists, studio rents jumped 28% in 2 years. Nationwide, Spain hosted 94 million tourists in 2024, projected to hit 100 million in 2025, generating $138 billion but straining infrastructure. Sewage systems in the Canaries failed 14 times last summer, spilling waste into azure waters. A 2025 YouGov poll reveals the breaking point: 68% of Spaniards and 76% in Barcelona say tourists are taking over, with 52% in coastal towns reporting no quality of life in peak season. Your idyllic Instagram post from Ibiza's Calacant? It masks beaches littered with 20 tons of trash monthly and locals priced out of their own paradise. The backlash is fierce and growing. In 2024 to 2025, Spain erupted in protests, with 20,000 marching in Palma and 3,000 in Barcelona under banners screaming, "Your holidays, my misery, my eviction." Illegal overstays, especially by digital nomads exploiting 90-day Schengen visas, surged 30% in 2024, prompting police raids in Valencia and Malaga, fining 1,500 offenders $2,150 each. As you wander the Gothic Quarter, shuttered local bakeries and graffiti reading "Tourists equal gentrification" signal a culture under siege. In 2025, summer protests are set to escalate. June 15th rallies in Barcelona, Ibiza, and Tenerife plan to block ports and airports, risking your flight home. Water pistols aimed at diners in Barceloneta last July hint at darker tensions. One wrong step in this powder keg, and your carefree holiday could spark a viral clash, leaving you stranded in a city that no longer welcomes you. Number 8. Portugal. Portugal's hidden gems, Lisbon and Porto, became global tourist magnets. In 2024, monthly arrivals hit 2.1 million in August, with peaks also in June and September. Neighborhoods such as Alfama, Bairro Alto, and Ribera are dominated by short-term rentals. Golden visa programs accelerate foreign property purchases, often for rental income or long-term stays. Local protests are mounting. Families' claim shops are replaced by souvenir stores and tourist restaurants. Traditional markets vanish and rents skyrocket. Porto's Ribera district is almost entirely touristified during peak season, with locals struggling to afford homes. Illegal overstays. Thousands of tourists exploit lenient visa enforcement to remain for months or years. Some neighborhoods have turned into semi-permanent foreign enclaves. Streets that were once local communities are now dominated by tourists. Quiet neighborhoods are transformed into bustling tourist zones. Families are forced out, and the character of historic neighborhoods disappears. Lisbon and Porto, once charming cities, are now struggling under the weight of tourism. Number 7. Mexico. The Mexican Caribbean is engulfed in a tourism tsunami, turning its turquoise shores into battlegrounds of development and despair. Quintana Roo saw 20.99 million tourists in 2024, up 8% from 2023. With Cancun alone handling 9.72 million international air arrivals, peaking at 74.7% hotel occupancy in 135,000 plus rooms from December to April. Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum stagger under resort sprawl, with 40% of the coastline privatized, triggering water shortages. Tulum rationed taps 20% of days in 2024 as aquifers depleted 15% yearly, and beaches losing 30% public access. Real estate prices skyrocketed, with Playa del Carmen hitting $350 to $400 per square foot and Tulum's eco-luxury pads at $400 plus, displacing 25% more locals inland as foreigners, lured by 10 to 15% annual appreciation, claim 60% of new builds. Indigenous Maya communities and fishermen stage fiery 2024 to 2025 protests, blockading bulldozers over 2,500 hectares of raised mangroves and 50% coral reef loss from sunscreen runoff, slashing fishing yields by 35%. Illegal overstays surge, with 50,000 plus digital nomads exploiting 180-day visas via border runs, inflating rents 20% and sparking "Gringo Go Home" graffiti as enforcement catches just 1.02% of violators. Every luxury resort and beach club evicts families. Beaches choke under 76,000 tons of cleared sargassum in 2025, and cenotes, sacred Mayan lifeblood, turn into Instagram props, erasing traditional livelihoods. Tulum and Playa del Carmen are now tourist fortresses, with locals fighting for scraps of their homeland. As 2025 forecasts cite 22 million arrivals despite a 4.9% quarter-one dip from backlash. Your next pina colada could fuel a viral clash. Will your beach selfie cost a community its soul? Number 6. Greece. The Greek islands, once tranquil havens of azure seas and whitewashed villages, are crumbling under an onslaught of cruise ship and day-trip tourism, turning Cycladic idols into chaotic tourist traps. Santorini and Mykonos faced 3.2 million visitors from June to September 2024, with Santorini's 15,500 residents swamped by 10,000 daily cruise passengers, outnumbering locals by 650% on peak days, jamming narrow streets and overwhelming tiny ports. Athens reels from a 30% surge in Airbnb listings since 2022, with 12,000 units in historic Plaka and Kukaki driving rents up 25%, displacing 15% of families and pricing out teachers and shopkeepers. Nationwide, Greece welcomed 33 million tourists in 2024, projected to hit 35 million in 2025, generating $22 billion but crippling islands like Rhodes, where summer water supplies dropped 20% and 500 tons of trash piled up monthly. Island communities are fighting back with raw determination. In 2024 to 2025, Santorini's 5,000-strong marches demanded a cap of 8,000 daily cruise visitors, while Mykonos gathered 10,000 signatures to curb short-term rentals, which now claim 40% of housing stock. Farmers on Paros and Naxos protest 60% of wells running dry in August 2024, with energy grids faltering, 15% more outages than 2023, and landfills overflowing, sparking rat infestations in Chania. Illegal overstays worsen the strain, with 20,000 plus digital nomads and retirees exploiting Schengen visa border runs, evading Greece's lax enforcement. Only 1,200 deportations in 2024 despite a 35% rise in violations. The 2025 eco-tax of $22 per cruise passenger in Athens, 10% rental cap barely dent the crisis as grocery costs in tourist zones soar 18%. Every cruise ship, 1,200 docked in Santorini last year, chokes streets, drains wells, and buries beaches under plastic waste, erasing traditions like fishing festivals canceled for tourist safety. Athens Syri is now an Airbnb ghost town, with 70% of tavernas serving overpriced gyros to foreigners. A 2025 survey shows 65% of islanders feel their culture is vanishing, and social media buzzes with tourists out hashtags. Number 5. Italy. Italy's cultural capitals are overwhelmed. Venice alone sees over 25 million tourists per year, with the busiest months May to September, when cruise ships arrive daily, unloading thousands into narrow streets. Venice canals are packed with gondolas and tourists, making movement almost impossible. Locals protest the construction of new hotel projects and cruise ship expansions, claiming their city is turning into a theme park rather than a home. Illegal overstays are rampant. Many tourists arrive on short-term visas and then extend stays repeatedly, sometimes turning apartments into semi-permanent residences. Seasonal peaks see over 1.5 million visitors per month in Rome and Florence alone, creating immense pressure on housing, transport, and public services. Venice canals no longer belong to locals. Streets overflow with visitors. Families leave historic homes. Number 4. Turkey. Turkey rebounded strongly after the pandemic. Istanbul, Antalya, and Cappadocia received over 50 million visitors in 2024, with peak months June to September. Istanbul's Sultanahmet, Galata, and Taksim areas are overcrowded. Historic neighborhoods are dominated by tourist shops, cafes, and hotels. Antalya's coastal towns are full of foreign-owned properties used for repeated tourist visa stays or semi-permanent rentals. Local reaction is growing. Coastal towns have protested foreign ownership and long-term tourist residency. Residents demand limits on short-term rentals and stricter enforcement of visa rules. Illegal overstays are significant, particularly in Istanbul and Antalya, with tens of thousands of tourists living for years without proper documentation. Environmental issues rise with overtourism. Beaches in Antalya face erosion. Cappadocia's valleys are trampled by constant tourist traffic, and waste management systems strain under heavy visitor numbers. Istanbul's historic districts are slowly losing local residents to tourist rentals. Antalya's beaches are crowded beyond capacity. Cappadocia's landscapes, once serene, are trampled and commercialized. Turkey's tourism boom is silently consuming its culture, cities, and neighborhoods. Number 3. Bali, Indonesia. Bali, once a serene tapestry of rice paddies and ancient temples, is buckling under a 2024 tourism tsunami of 16.4 million visitors, up 22.67% from 2023, peaking in July and August with 3 million monthly arrivals that choke coastal towns like Canggu and Uluwatu with villas, beach clubs, and resorts. Iconic rice terraces vanish at a rate of 600 hectares annually, replaced by 2,500 new construction projects, while sacred temples like Pura Luhur Uluwatu morph into Instagram backdrops, with 70% of visitors prioritizing selfies over reverence. Water shortages grip 40% of southern villages, exacerbated by 15% higher tourist consumption, and sacred rituals are commodified into $50 cultural experiences for tour groups. Picture your sunrise yoga in Ubud interrupted by bulldozers. Your dream Bali escape is paving over a local's ancestral land. Local communities are pushing back with fierce resolve. In 2024 to 2025, protests erupted in Denpasar and Kuta, with 4,000 locals demanding caps on villa permits and an end to mangrove destruction. 1,200 hectares lost since 2020 for resort sprawl. Illegal overstays are rampant, with 30,000 plus digital nomads and expats exploiting 60-day visa extensions or border runs to Malaysia, creating foreign enclaves that inflate Canggu rents by 28% and fuel Bali for Balinese graffiti. A 2025 survey reveals 62% of locals feel their culture is eroding, and social media buzzes with hashtag Bali Overrun campaigns. In Canggu, 65% of new villas are foreign-owned, replacing rice fields and pricing out farmers, whose incomes dropped 20% in 2 years. Uluwatu's sacred beaches, like Padang Padang, are now party zones, with 80% of beachfront businesses catering to tourists, while locals face $400 monthly rents they can't afford. Indonesia's 2025 tourism target of 18 million visitors, backed by a $2.07 billion economic boost, masks a darker toll: 500 tons of monthly coastal trash and 25% coral reef degradation from tourist boats. Every villa, every yoga retreat displaces families, drains wells dry. 80% of Ubud's groundwater is diverted to hotels, and turns sacred lands into photo ops. The Bali you chase on Instagram is a fading mirage, with locals losing homes, livelihoods, and culture to an industry that prioritizes your $200 smoothie bowl. As July 2025 protests plan to block Ngurah Rai Airport, one misstep, like an overstayed visa or loud beach rave, could trap you in a viral clash, your tropical paradise unraveling into a battleground for Bali's soul. Number 2. France. France sees astronomical tourist numbers. Paris alone receives over 35 million visitors per year, with Montmartre, Le Marais, and Latin Quarter overwhelmed. The French Riviera, including Nice, Cannes, and Saint-Tropez, is flooded with foreign buyers inflating property prices and converting apartments into short-term rentals. Local protests have grown. Residents demand limits on holiday rentals and action against illegal short-term housing. Illegal overstays add pressure, particularly in Paris and coastal towns. During peak months June-August, streets are jammed, hotels oversold, and neighborhoods dominated by tourists rather than locals. Paris streets you once walked are now tourist corridors. Families are forced out. Coastal towns vanish under luxury tourists. Every visitor contributes to the destruction of local life, culture, and identity. Number 1. United States. The U.S. is assumed to handle tourism easily, but reality is different. Miami Beach sees seasonal surges with foreign tourists arriving on tourist or business visas and overstaying, occupying rental units for months. New York's tourist corridors, Times Square, certain Brooklyn neighborhoods, are overwhelmed during summer. Los Angeles beach towns and ski resorts experience similar pressure. Illegal overstays are rampant. Many tourists remain in cities long-term via repeated visa extensions, creating semi-permanent foreign communities. Local councils implement rental caps and registration requirements, but enforcement varies city by city. Let's see some U.S. cities' issues. Miami, neighborhoods dominated by foreign seasonal residents. And New York City, Times Square and Midtown Manhattan saturated. Housing pressure skyrockets. Los Angeles, Venice Beach and Santa Monica overwhelmed. Locals displaced. Streets you grew up in now belong to tourists. Public services strain and housing becomes unaffordable. Seasonal influxes overwhelm infrastructure. Cities are no longer homes. They are playgrounds for visitors. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.